the more we understand the entrepreneur journey, the more we can get better perspective as to how to lead our companies and to build businesses by design that fulfill as much as we can. So let me share with you the entrepreneur journey. It led me to go and have a look at the data in the UK, and in the UK there's 5.25 million businesses that are registered as businesses. That's 2014 number. They're probably closer to 5.3, 5.4 million businesses now. When you look at the data, it kind of looks like this, and as soon as you look at the data, you kind of see that it's pretty interesting that 7,000 companies represent 53% of the GDP of the UK. So 47% of the GDP is the 5.25 million businesses, little tiny businesses that make up the other half of the revenue the UK earns. So 7,000 companies, it's a tiny, tiny percentage. And by the way, that's only companies that have more than 250 people. So there's only 7,000 of those in the UK. The vast majority of the UK is small business. We have millions and millions of small businesses. But here's what you discover pretty quickly. There's only 30,000 businesses that have 50 to 250 people, only 200,000 businesses that are 10 to 49, and about 5 million are the 0 to 9 people. Now, when we put this on some visual, some graph, you actually see the entrepreneur journey that people go through, and this is what's helpful to understand. The first phase of the entrepreneur journey is startup. Everyone in this room was once an optimist, right? You were once an optimist sitting there with your business thinking, this is the right thing to do, this is the best thing I can do with my time, this is the best thing I can do with my energy. Something ticked you off enough to say, I'm going to go out and solve that. Something annoyed you to the extent that you said, I'm going to fix that problem. I'm going to go and take my skills out, and I'm going to do this on my own, I'm going to build a team, I'm going to build a business. And you were an optimist at that point. And the thing that you were typically optimistic about when you were launching is the same thing that these 767 people who are optimistic today are optimistic about. They know, those 767 people today, that once they start their business, there will be more money, more time, and less stress. And that's why we start businesses. So we get going, we prototype, we do our business cards and our logos and our websites, and we put together our strategic plans, our best laid plans of mice and men, and we put them all down, and then we launch the business. And for 75% of all businesses out there, they never get past this first stage. The first stage is what we call the wilderness. The wilderness is where you're acting alone, you're all by yourself, you don't have a team, you don't employ anyone, it's just you all alone. And the problem with being in the wilderness is you have all the downsides of a job, all the downsides of a business, without the upsides of a job or the upsides of a business. So when I talk to people who have got no employees and no team, they say things to me, but where am I going to get the money to employ someone? Where am I going to get, how am I going to find someone who would want to join my little survival situation? Right? And they say all of these kind of things about reinforcing that the wilderness is a tough place to be, without realising that something magical happens when a team gets created. So the next phase of business is what we call the boutique. I should mention, revenue per employee at this point is $55,000 on average. So if you actually sum it all up, if you're a person all by yourself, it's $55,000. If it's a husband and wife or two business partners, it's $110,000 on average. So revenue per person in the country is $55,000. And then we hit the boutique. Boutique is where you get 3 to 15 people together. And those people, they're now working together. They might have virtual offices. They might have a weekly team meeting. They might use Evernote and Slack and WhatsApp to coordinate themselves. They might have a little hot desking office, but suddenly there's some roles. There's a person who's in charge of sales. There's a person who's in charge of operations. There's a person who is leading the team. There's all sorts of things starting to happen. And magically, revenue per person jumps. Productivity jumps. We're all out there looking for the productivity app, the to-do list, the thing that gives you extra productivity. The reality is the number one thing since the Industrial Revolution that will give you almost twice as productivity is a team of 3 to 12 people. You'll just suddenly shift productivity. And if you can get revenue per person higher than 90,000 per person on average, you enter what's called the lifestyle boutique. So the lifestyle boutique is where your revenue per person starts climbing and climbing. If you've got, say, 3 people, it's 300,000 and up. If you've got 10 people, it's £1 million plus. But you get high enough revenue per person that you enter the lifestyle boutique. Now, this business is fun. It's a day at the beach, and it's a lot like beach volleyball. So when you get that lifestyle business, everyone's kind of got a role that they're performing. Everyone's kind of doing something, but really it's just about the fun of it, and there's lots of fun, lots of communication. Everyone's enjoying the experience. So revenue per person almost doubles, and suddenly we have this lovely business. There's plenty to go around, and we're enjoying the lifestyle business phase. Until such time as we get to person number 12, 13, 14, 15. Now we're in trouble. So 12 people fit around the table. 12 people work as a team. 12 people go out and have a movie night together. 12 people go out to a restaurant together. But 13 people, not so much. 14 people, not so much. I often think about poor Jesus at the Last Supper. Right? It was a team of 13. It was working really well right up until 11. Right? That last guy, not so hot. So the team grows and scales, and more problems creep in. So culture problems creep into this scaling phase. So as you scale a business, now you've got half the team who want to be back to where they were having so much fun as a little lifestyle business. Half the team want to be a performance business. You've got half the team who remember the good old days where they could just simply pick up the phone and talk to you for an hour about an idea they've just had, and the other half who are waiting for you to hire a professional CFO and a bookkeeper and a personal assistant. So all of this drama creeps in. The other thing too is all the off-the-shelf products and all the off-the-shelf software that you use no longer works for your bigger team. So suddenly you need to invest into the business. You need to custom build that website. You need to custom build that CRM system. You need to go from what we call a P&L mindset, profit and loss mindset, to a balance sheet mindset of developing assets within the business. And it tears you apart because everything that worked up until that point was what we call P&L thinking. So P&L thinking is sell more stuff and keep costs low. Asset thinking is develop assets, buy or acquire assets, improve assets, research and develop assets, but put more assets into the business. So big companies, the top PLC companies, they don't even have sales or marketing people in their boards. They have people who just sit around all day talking about asset allocation, who they're going to buy, who they're going to acquire, how much they're going to spend developing a new asset. Little companies don't think about assets at all. They think about how we're going to sell more stuff and keep costs low. So in the wilderness, we have this tear apart moment where you have to go from P&L thinking to asset thinking, and it's expensive and it's difficult, and that's where most good companies go to die. So in this country, we've had a massive push towards the startup movement, but what we now need is a push towards the movement of scale-ups to support those companies that go from 10, 11, 12 people up to the next phase, which is the performance phase. Now, during this scaling phase, you've got to increase the team, but also increase revenue per person to 125,000 or more, or else this scaling will get pulled back down to earth again. We scale up, we hit 50 people, and now we're into either performance business or a factory. So down here we've got a factory where people aren't quite happy and everyone feels like they're overworked and underpaid. And up here we've got the performance business where we've got revenue per person nice and high, above £150,000 per person. Everyone's got a role, big corporate relationships in place, great assets, great tools for people to use, great measurements, great systems are in place, and it's running like a Formula One team. So that's where we end up being if we get up to the performance phase. So as we hit the performance phase, suddenly we're feeling good, we're a proper business now. What happens at performance is that you now have a valuable business. So when you hear about people who sell their company for a life-changing amount of money, normally they built a business with 50 plus people, 7 million plus in revenue, and then they sold it for a life-changing amount of money. When you hear people who sold their company and it was smaller than that, normally it's enough to take a little bit of a holiday, to stop, have a breather and rethink what you're going to do next, but it's not the life-changing amount of money. So you've got to build a performance business if you want to do the big value. But the downside is you have to cross the desert, and that's the difficult piece. The final one I want to mention is called the unicorn. The unicorn is the business that we all love to talk about. It's on the front cover of Wired magazine every single week. It's Uber, it's Instagram, it's WhatsApp, it's Facebook, it's Twitter. It's all of those businesses that become billion-dollar brands within 7 years. They go really, really fast, and there's less to learn from them than you'd think. So most of the time when you see an Uber or an Instagram, realistically, right time, right place, very deep pockets around it, and there was 99 losers for every winner. There were 99 who almost got to be that unicorn as well. The other thing that's common to them is they have really high revenue per person. So typically, once they snap into gear with their product strategy, revenue per person jumps above £185,000 per person, and the business can scale. When you've got high revenue per person like that, it's really easy to hire great people, to have fun with great people, to take risks, to innovate, to develop. All of those things become easy when you've got high revenue per person. Revenue per person tends to be like gravity. It's either or a magnet. It's pulling you down to being a small business if revenue per person is small, around 80, 90 grand, or it's pulling you right up to become a big business if it's up around £150,000 plus. So it's a really important measure. My next book is actually about revenue per person. So the entrepreneur journey is more predictable than you think, and what's exciting about that is that you can design the business that you want once you understand the entrepreneur journey.